Hello and welcome to my latest video. So I recently got hold of a Samsung Galaxy Fold 3 and it's a fantastic phone, and I couldn't wait with this great Snapdragon 888 processor inside to give it a go playing some cool retro games. So we're going to go right through a whole host of retro games in the next sort of 20 minutes or so, and as you would expect, something like this, which is the original Game Boy, everything plays absolutely pixel perfect. If anything, the screen is too big for something like this because obviously the original Game Boy was nowhere near this size. But it's a classic old game, and I like a bit of burger time. I remember playing it in the arcade. I'm not particularly good at it anymore because it takes practice. But you know, when you think how big original Game Boy games are, you can have the entire library, you know, in your wristwatch, to be honest. So it is fantastic, and there's some great stuff out there. There really is. And this was just one of my favourites. So I've had the Fold for about a month now, and it's my daily phone, my daily driver, as they say. And a lot of my friends are concerned about the crease, and you'll see it a few times in this, going horizontally across the screen there, but it doesn't show up too often. So this was Game Boy Advance. I didn't bother with any Game Boy Color, but I then got straight to the Game Boy Advance. Cracking little system. GBA games look great on this. They really do. You'll find with the Fold, you pick up the actual crease in the middle on white content. So sometimes if you're reading a website, it's not the greatest experience because you see that fold. But if you turn the Fold the other way around, like 90 degrees, usually then that makes the crease sort of disappear, or at least become less noticeable. One thing you don't see on this is the camera notch, which is very well sort of camouflaged. It sort of blends in with what's on the screen, which is incredibly clever. This is one of my favourite original arcade games, really, but it's pixel perfect on the GBA. This is Bubble Bobble, old and new. Absolutely fantastic game. Love it. Here's another GBA game, another favourite of mine, Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. Remember enjoying this one when it came out. Had about 10 GBA games in the initial run. And this was the Zelda one I had. And this, I think, still looks fantastic, even on the larger screen. Once again, this is probably 3 times the GBA real estate. One thing that you do have to get used to, and that's true with a lot of the emulators we're going to see today, is playing without a Bluetooth controller. Just getting used to the on-screen display, but it takes a bit of time, and each emulator is a little bit different. Here we are, the Sega Mega Drive, or the Genesis, as it was known in the States. One of my all-time favourite games is a pinball game. It's called Dragon's Fury. This one also had a version come out initially on the PC Engine, not quite as refined as this one. Absolutely, totally addictive pinball game. One of my all-time favourite video pinball games, and I'm a real fan of them. Sort of that gothic look to it. It's fantastic. But as you can imagine, you know, same as the Game Boy Advance, the Mega Drive, everything plays to perfection. I thought we'd have a quick look at another one, just something with a bit of speed in it, which is Sonic 3. Apologies for my reflection there. It is a highly reflective beast, and trying to film it is really difficult. It's almost impossible outside, so I've done this inside with some sort of side lighting on just to make it, you know, viewable. I don't think I've done too bad, so you get an idea. The screen on the Fold 3 is the contrast on it and the saturation of the colour is really good. I mean, if there's one thing Samsung are famous for, it's their screens, and this is no exception. This is really something. And I've shown this to a few of my gaming friends, and they're really sort of blown away by the quality of it. It really is truly something. Now, the top spec on the Fold 3 is 512 gigabytes of internal memory, and I've got a fair old selection of retro games in here. In fact, about 300 gigabytes worth, so quite a bit, but predominantly, as we'll see in a minute, one of my all-time favourite retro systems to this day is PPSSPP. It's just a system I loved from day one, and I've got a lot of PSP games in there. So here's a little bit of N64 emulation. Now, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer was one that's notoriously difficult to emulate on any hardware, but we have to remember this has got 12 gigabytes of RAM and the Snapdragon 888 processor. There is an 888 Plus, I believe, now in certain devices, but this is still so quick, and Star Wars Racer plays superbly. Later on, I played some of the emulators with a Bluetooth controller, which fits this, the iPega, and I do wish I'd actually used that on this particular one. But like quite a few of the Nintendo systems, using Bluetooth controllers, you almost have to map them for that particular system, which is quite annoying, rather than most emulators where it's just plug and play. But the Gamecube, the N64, and the Wii, to some extent, all need you to set the controller up from fresh, and that's a little bit annoying. My driving is not the best in this particular race, but I do love, you can see that sense of speed. It's fantastic. Very, very nice indeed. I did play some GoldenEye on this as well, and once I got the hang of the controllers, that is another game that plays really well. So we're moving on to the Dreamcast now, which is Marvel v Capcom. I have got some Sega Saturn games. I didn't actually show them on this video. I actually forgot because I've not got that many. And I was never a massive fan of the Saturn, although, as you can imagine, everything plays perfectly. But these are a couple of Dreamcast games that I enjoy. Marvel vs. Capcom, always fantastic. I just love sort of the colours on this and the Marvel characters. It's just great fun. Just superb. Played this with my son quite a bit. This is one of our go-to beat-em-ups when we want a bit of friendly rivalry. We'll play one of the Marvel v Capcom games. And this really is very, very playable right in your pocket. It's so good. You do not need to have a Bluetooth controller to enjoy the hell out of this one. Another thing to mention on the Fold 3 is the sound. So there's two sort of speakers on one edge of it, and that creates Dolby Atmos, and it really is something very, very loud. Quite often I might be in the shower and I'll leave my phone outside and I'll be listening to, say, a YouTube video, and I can hear it over the shower. It's great. It's really, really good. Very, very loud if you want it to be loud. So here's another real favourite for the Dreamcast. It's Sonic Adventure 2. And you do get that, a bit like Crazy Taxi, which I believe uses the same sort of engine. You do get a real sense of the speed of this game. And I use the Redream emulator. I believe this is 3 times resolution. But it's a very, very good emulator, Redream, and comes recommended. It's one of the best ones out there. Certainly for ease of use, it's just straightforward and great. Really nice, colourful, fast game this. But one I believe will be a little bit easier with a Bluetooth controller. And I know Redream works with Bluetooth controllers really well, so maybe I'll do some extended play videos on particular systems with a Bluetooth controller and without, going down the line. I'm certainly planning on doing a dedicated Fold 3 and PPSSPP emulator video in just a couple of weeks' time. So this is Mario Kart DS for the original Nintendo DS. And with the fold there, you could indeed just fold it in half, so you could slightly angle the top screen and play it that way, and have at the bottom for your controllers. But it does make it very, very easy to control. DS games look absolutely fantastic on this. I played it this way around, but on reflection it might have been better to play this one a little bit more vertical, more in line with the original Nintendo DS, but I think this still looks absolutely fantastic. And there's lots of different configurations, so I could just make it, I could have it above and below for both screens with an overlay over the bottom. I could make the top screen just full on. So there's lots of variations, but this way is absolutely fun. This is the default, and absolutely great. Certainly remember playing the hell out of this one when I got my DS. It was a real improvement on the old GBA one. And even to this day, the Nintendo DS is just a fantastic. The library is just awesome, and there's some great versions of the actual hardware out there. Particularly, I think it's the 25th. It's called like a Mario edition. It's all in red, and that version of the DS, it's an XL, so it's big screens above and below. Beautiful bit of hardware, that one, and one I'm still trying to get a nice one, a nice boxed one for a decent price. But that's the one to keep your eyes peeled for. It's fantastic. Now we move on to its slightly older cousin, the Nintendo 3DS. And this was one that was never commercially available, but it was available on the DS App Store, so you could download it and install it online. And Gunman Clive, absolutely fantastic. Had a sequel as well. It's just sort of a Wild West shooter. This one's using the Citra emulator, so this is only going to run on higher end hardware. But you know, this runs okay on 865 Snapdragon, so 888 is going to run even quicker, which it does. It is running perfect speed. The sound is great as well. Sort of an old West cartoon shoot 'em up. It's good stuff. And this was once again an absolutely fantastic 3DS game, one I played right through to the end. On the Snapdragon 865s, this game's almost unplayable, but on Snapdragon 888s, it's pretty nippy. The only thing is, trying to play it with the on-screen controllers was a little bit fiddly, and I might have another crack at this with a Bluetooth controller. But it was alright. You could see everything was running at the correct speed. It was just because of the nature of the game and the camera zooming in and out, it just felt a little bit tricky to navigate. But the actual original game is a bit like that, and I'm sure it's the sort of thing that you'll get the hang of after a little bit of time, a bit of practice playing it. But nice to see this one. I mean, if this plays okay, I don't think there's anything that's going to trouble this device 3DS wise. So I've now popped in my iPega 9083S, which is a Bluetooth controller which can handle large phones and tablets, which is really, really good. I'll put a link to it because it's one I absolutely think is fantastic. You can get these on Amazon and eBay, so there's links to both in the description down below. This is PlayStation 1, and PlayStation 1 emulation on this device is just astonishing. The screen, it fills the full screen. It's pixel perfect. It's super responsive. The sound is accurate. I'm using the PSPSSPP emulator, and it's just amazing, absolutely amazing. This is one of my favourite sideways shooters called G Darius. It's a sideways schmuck. Had it at the time, loved it then, and I still love it now. Although I'm worse at it as I've got older. Shall we say, as my reactions have got slower. But just having this fantastic game in your pocket is brilliant. And as I said, the controller, I can't praise it highly enough. It's, you know, this is a real experience. And as I said, all the PlayStation 1 games I played on this with this Bluetooth controller, it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I thought we'd quickly get in a little bit of Tekken 3, which was my favourite Tekken on the original PlayStation as well. Another great game this. I just loved this one to death. Played it through so many times. And as you can see, it just looks wonderful. Absolutely amazing. Just the colours and the saturation of those colours and the brightness of the screen combined with the sound. It's just awesome. Yes, I could have carried on playing this one for another couple of hours, but I realised I wanted to get a few more systems in this video, and I have tried pretty much to cover all the main sort of emulation systems that you're going to want to try on this. But as you can see, we've got to a point now with these phones where most systems now are running very smoothly indeed. It's good stuff. Okay then, so on to perhaps my favourite emulator of all time. It's the PPSSPP emulator. I've got a PSP, I've got a PlayStation Vita as well, and I love them both to death. But having so many games in your pocket just like this is just phenomenal. And this was definitely one of my favourites, which is Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. I love it on any format I've ever played it on. The original Xbox version is also particularly good. This is just so much fun. I have lots of competitions, me and my son, and we both got really quite good at it now. I haven't done the ultimate, which I believe is the 15. Is it the 15 stages where you go around the track 3 times? But we've completed like the 5-step version of this multiple times. This is good because there's lots of sort of spin-off games. This is like tracking your rival, but there's other ones where you go through like obstacle courses and tunnels and things like this, which is also really cool. So there's a nice bit of variation, and there's also quite a nice batch of unlockables, so it does reward you if you put in quite a few hours on it. You can also go online and put in a few cheat codes, and you can unlock like all the cars and things like that, but you just need to look it up. But yeah, this was another one I could have just carried on playing and playing and playing. But suffice to say, anything that was released on the PlayStation Portable, including the God of War games and Call of Duty, Killzone's Liberation, these are all games that traditionally have been tough to emulate. They all play super silky smooth. It's just fantastic. And the Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Story is another one that just plays great. Although, to be honest, these played fantastic on the Snapdragon 865s. It's just on this bigger screen they look amazing. And on the PPSSPP emulator, you can upscale it by 5 times, which is awesome. This is another real classic. It's one my wife likes. It's the puzzle game Lumines. Very similar to Tetris. I've got a banging soundtrack as well. I absolutely am appalling at it. But I used to enjoy it back in the day. I have a few hours zoning out on this one. You could get really into it. For a game this style of game now, I do recommend the Space Invaders for the PPSSPP. That's very similar. It's fantastic, and an absolutely banging soundtrack. So now we move on to the highest end emulated system today, which is which is PlayStation 2, and this is showing Tekken 5. Now, this has got some slowdown, unfortunately, so it's not playing at full belt, but using the Daemon PS2 emulator, only about 60% of games are running at full speed, even on the best hardware out there. They've just not been optimized yet. So this one looks good, but as you can see, It's just a little bit slow. This is just straight out the box. I've not tried to tweak settings and turn on frame skip, which would undoubtedly improve performance, but it gives you an idea of how the actual picture is being rendered. And well, you can see an example of a PS2 game. Certain ones, which are these are more difficult to emulate games, are still going to have some sort of issue, even on this hardware. This is Gradius for the PlayStation 2, and this is just a sideways shooter. And as you would expect, even with the improved graphics and backgrounds and sound and things like that, the explosions are far more detailed. This plays absolutely fine. I can say it looks $1 million. It really is very, very playable. Whatever your thoughts on Damon PS2 as an emulator, it's the only thing out there to handle PlayStation 2 games for the time being. And until something better comes along, this is what we've got to put up with. And it's better than nothing, in my opinion, even if it's not the greatest. So yeah, not everything plays perfectly, but a lot of stuff does. And what does plays very, very well, such as this one. And that is sort of the limit of emulation at the moment on Android. So sort of PlayStation 2. This obviously is capable of doing Switch emulation, but I'm going to steer clear of that on this channel. It's a bit too recent for my liking, and I really don't want to get into trouble with Nintendo for glorifying Switch emulation. But with the right controller and Egg NS software, it's certainly something that this system can handle with no problem at all. But you just have to have a particular 70 quid controller, which I'm not particularly prepared to go out and buy just to play it when I've got a Switch anyway. So I just play that as is. So last couple of Nintendo systems now. So here's the Gamecube. Here's just a few bits of Metal Slug Anthology. Good little fun game. I love the Metal Slug games. They're great fun. Once again, this took a little bit of getting used to the controls because, like on a lot of the Nintendo systems, they're reversed. Some of the buttons are like a bit of a faff. And using a Bluetooth controller, you have to, you're forever going, what's the word? In and out of, you have to, the keys are reversed, so you have to go into the emulator and set every single system up individually with the controller, which is a bit of a faff. Once you've done it once though, and if you want an extended session playing GameCube or Wii, you're fine, So this one's for the GameCube, and it's Mario Kart Double Dash. Plays absolutely fantastic. So we've seen a few Mario Karts today. I think it's always a good one to show you just how that series has progressed and how the emulation on it is coming along. And as you can see, it's very, very nippy. The sound on it's cracking. You're not going to have an issue with this. So I suppose, in summary then, just to sort of sum up really my thoughts on the Galaxy Fold Z3, at the moment it is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, really it is an arcade emulation beast in your pocket. And if you do tie it in with a Bluetooth controller of your liking, and don't forget you can just use an Xbox or a PlayStation 5 one or 4 one even, using just Bluetooth. They work absolutely fine. Just stick that out and you've got a real arcade in your pocket with lots and lots of games should you want them. So yeah, very, very recommended. So look out for more Galaxy Fold videos very soon. Certainly I'm going to be doing one in just a couple of weeks time, and that's going to be on the Galaxy Fold 3 playing the PPSSPP emulator, which I know will be absolutely fantastic, and we'll sort of cover 10 to 15 of my favourites and just see how they play, including some of the harder to emulate ones as well. Thanks very much for watching today. Do hit that subscribe button if you've not already for regular retro gaming content, and I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.